Broadcasting from a computer with Windows 95, deep within an underground bunker somewhere in the back of your imagination, it's the Use Your Weight Radio podcast, presented by the JXB Radio Network. And now, two men who can sneeze without closing their eyes and can lick their own elbows. It's Dr. Motorcycle and the fantastic Johnny X.
And welcome back, everybody, once again to another great episode of the Use Your Weight Radio podcast. I, of course, am Dr. Motorcycle, joined, as always, by my compatriot and companion,
the fantastic Johnny X. How the hell are you, Motorcycle?
I am doing great. I hesitate to say fantastic because I know that you're fantastic, but so I'll say I'm doing great.
That works. I'm only fantastic on the outside right now. So.
Oh.
All good. All excited to get on the show and talk. Happy to be here for, what is it, episode 3? I'm surprised we've made it this far.
Episode 3, yeah.
Yeah. I'm really, episode 3. Really surprised we made it this far. Surprised we haven't been arrested yet or something.
We are professional at many things.
And evading the law would definitely be one of them.
Well, as you know, Johnny, recently the comedy world lost a great legend in Richard Lewis. You know, he was a big stand-up comedian in the 80s, moved on to movies, and of course everyone knows him from Curb Your Enthusiasm. And, he had a rough life. He had a little bit of trouble in his life, got his start in comedy in his 20s. He got into dark comedy, self-deprecating humor, and that focused on mainly his drug addictions, his alcoholism, and his broken family life. In fact, he even earned the name the Prince of Pain.
Yeah, the thing about Richard Lewis, and you're right, most people, in 2024 or whatever year you happen to be listening to this, know him from Curb, from his role in Curb with Larry David. But, you and I both are old enough to remember him as a stand-up in the 80s. I'm sure I would have been a young kid. I'm sure you were. Well, I know you were. But,
You're only a few days older than me.
I know, but stay with me here. It's been a rough week, man. It's been a rough week. But I'm sure you remember or have some vague memory of some of his stand-up specials back on the day on HBO and Showtime, and that constant, like, talking with his hands thing where he, like, I don't know how to describe it for a radio audience, but, he's always doing stuff with his hands from his forehead, like his head was exploding, like, why are we dealing with this? That kind of thing.
And he had that great hair.
He had
that great hair his entire career.
He was one of those guys of that era that they all had very similar haircuts, but it was great. Like him, Dennis Miller, a lot of comedians. I think Dana Carvey had a version of it. Of course, Marty Stewart in the music world all had similar glorious hair. But no, my thing with Richard Lewis is, you didn't hear him. For me, he wasn't on that Carlin, Pryor, peak Eddie Murphy, Bill Hicks for totally different reasons. He wasn't on that level of influential to me comedian, but I really do think for me personally, and perhaps for you as well, his comedy definitely had an influence on me to some degree because that kind of dark, self-deprecating, just snarky almost comedy. Like if you know me outside of this realm, you know me in the real world, I'm pretty self-deprecating and it can get dark pretty quick. So I think, and that's just not a bit I do for the show, it's real life. So yeah, he definitely had an indirect influence on me. And I know he had a big influence on a lot of people prior to Curb. But, there's also another generation, people of our age, Motorcycle, know him for his role in a movie. A very fun movie, I might add. A movie I recently rewatched.
Yeah. And this week, or this episode of the show, we have decided to pay tribute with a great film review from our very own Josh Bates, where this episode he debates the classic Mel Brooks comedy, Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Coming to you straight from the labs underneath the JXB radio network, here's something I've been cooking up for the Use Your Weight podcast. Welcome to Bates Debates Films. Hey there everyone, this is Josh Bates with Bates Debates Films, and I'll be discussing the 1993 film Robin Hood, Men in Tights. Starring Cary Elwes in the title role, this Mel Brooks comedy follows the standard Robin Hood storyline, with one notable exception. More on that later. Robin Hood starts off in the Middle East, where he is thrown into a dungeon, but never fear, because of course he has to get back to England, and fairly quickly. Once back on his home turf, he meets up with Chu, portrayed by Dave Chappelle. Turns out while Robin was away fighting in the Crusades, Prince John repossessed his family's castle and lands due to failure to pay taxes. Thus follows the standard Robin Hood fights the bad guys for the good guys type of story. The true notable exception to that tale, though, comes on Maid Marian, played by Wings actress Amy Yazbek. She has a solid steel chastity belt, which cannot be taken off easily. Rounding out the cast is the late, great Richard Lewis as Prince John, and the true MVP of this film, for my money, Roger Rees as the Sheriff of Rottingham. Even if all of the comedic bits don't always work, the acting is top-notch by everyone involved. There are some pacing issues, however, most notably, there is a scene in the third act, which has aged very poorly, where the sheriff tries to take Maid Marian in her bed, but has to break the chastity belt first. This is all lighthearted and played for laughs, but the real menace underneath it all just makes the end of the film feel all icky and gross. Because Cary Elwes is playing the dashing lead and it's a Mel Brooks comedy, it's impossible not to look at other films that came before this one to compare it to. For my money, if you want a smarter, sharper script by Mel Brooks, go for Spaceballs. And if you want a medieval adventure tale with a genuine love story that doesn't make you feel like you need to take a shower afterward, go see The Princess Bride. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of things that work for this film. The casting, a lot of the jokes, and the overall lightness and tone throughout its runtime. However, I can't give this a full recommendation, only a 5 out of 10. As of the time of recording, this film is currently streaming on Max. And with all my reviews, it is also available on home media for people who want to rock it old school with their disc players. I salute you. For the Use Your Weight podcast, this is Josh Bates signing off from underneath the JXB Radio Network.
That's our very own Josh Bates. His segment, of course, Bates Debates Film, talking about the Mel Brooks classic Robin Hood, Men in Tights, as we pay a little bit of a tribute to the late, great Richard Lewis, who died recently at the age of 76 from a heart attack after years of dealing with mental health issues, depression, body dysmorphia.
Parkinson's disease. You know, he got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to He has such a checklist of things. I totally skipped over that real big one. But no, I was going to say motorcycle. I mentioned it I teased it before the segment there. I did watch this movie here recently, actually earlier this week. And, listen, I love Mel Brooks. I think the movie's fantastic. It generally holds up. I don't know that I put it in that pantheon on the Mount Rushmore with like Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and all that. But it's a very entertaining, very funny movie, very of its time, I think. Because there are definitely some dated references in that, specific to that era. But no, Richard Lewis is fantastic in that. Roger Rees is the sheriff of Rottingham, though, he's nowhere near Alan Rickman as the sheriff in the Prince of Thieves movie that one lampoons. But no, really enjoy that movie. Definitely worth a watch. It's currently, as of this recording, on HBO. Or Max, as they call it now, but in this house we call it HBO, so you can check it out online there.
That's right. It will always be HBO, the home box office.
Damn right.
Yeah, well, as Bates said in his review, there are some jokes in the film that don't quite hold up very well these days. It's not exactly the best Mel Brooks film, but it's still one worth watching. And as we said, it's streaming on HBO Max. It's time to take a quick break, and we appreciate you being here with us on the Use Your Weight Radio podcast, courtesy of the JXB Radio Network.
We have a YouTube channel? Just visit youtube.com/@useyourweight. We appreciate you listening and thank you for your support.
Come on down this weekend to the $59.99 Supercenter, where everything is
$59.99.
vacuum cleaners,
$59.99.
dining room tables,
$59.99.
sectional sofas,
$59.99.
cheesy curtains,
$59.99.
inflatable unicorn horns for cats,
$59.99.
squirrel underpants,
$59.99. Big ass spatulas, $59.99.
For unbeatable value and endless excitement, discover the joy of budget-friendly shopping at the $59.99 Supercenter, where amazing deals meet your every need.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Yeah, doctor, this is Henry M. Court again. I, am suffering from some well, there's this rash. I mean, my insurance company says it's a birthmark. But anyways, I need to see you. Please call me back.
And now, it's time to lube up and get down. It's the Velvet Connection with your local Lothario, Lazarus Lovehandle.
Welcome back, my babies. I'm Lazarus Lovehandle, here with everything you need to turn your night from no thanks to no, don't stop. You know, one thing you always want to do when a lady shows interest in you is let her know that you don't have any foot fungus. Because trust me, baby, foot fungus can ruin the mood, especially when you're at the beach, a barbecue, your nephew's bar mitzvah, and your grandmother's funeral. And I know what you're asking. What are you doing barefoot at your grandmother's funeral? Well, what wouldn't you be doing if you catch my drift, baby? Until next time, keep it smooth, my babies. Keep it smooth.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's the Use Your Weight Radio podcast here on the JXB Radio Network. You can find us online on YouTube. It's at Use Your Weight. And also, we have a website. It's jxbradio.wordpress.com. Johnny, when you were in college, did you study a whole lot of Shakespeare?
I did not study a lot of Shakespeare in college, but I have quite the exposure to Shakespeare, given that my mother is a retired English grammar teacher who taught a lot of Shakespeare. So I grew up around Willie S. I've been to his hometown.
So you have a lot of culture, so to speak. You've been overseas. You've been there and seen where Shakespeare did his thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, you know, we like to infuse our audience with a little bit of arts and culture from time to time, and today we are going to do so with Ye Old Country Parlor.
Thank you for tuning in again this week to Ye Old Country Parlor. I am your host, Braxton Mayberry IV, Duke of Nashvillington, and today I have a song for you from the minds of legendary country duo Brooks and Dunn. Here is a reading from their smash hit, Play Something Country. Yeah, the bartender yelled, "Y'all, it's closing time." She got this wild look on her face and said, "Your truck or mine? I know a place down the road and it's kind of funky. How-oo, all out in the country. How-oo, now play something country. Crank up the band, play the steel guitar. Hank it up a little, let's rock this bar." Threw back a shot, yelled, "I'm a George Strait junkie. Shouldn't be a junkie for a man. How-oo, play something country. How-oo, all play something country." Well, thank you again for joining me, and I hope you've had a fantastic day. God save the king and my soul.
And what a mind-blowing cultural experience that we just had, Johnny. I know that you feel overly enlightened now that you've heard that.
I do. I feel as though I need some cheese and some wine. I feel enlightened. I feel like my IQ went up 17 points. I'm ready for a tuxedo and a museum trip. Let's go. Next episode, live show, museum and tuxedos. Let's go.
I actually, during that segment, went and put on my pantaloons. I was so inspired.
Well, man, y'all don't know. That's a big deal for him to put on pantalones. That just doesn't happen.
No.
I don't know. I'm bumfuzzled by that one. That's impressive. That is impressive.
That's how cultured we have become here.
Truly men of culture, Motorcycle. Truly men of culture.
Thanks to the ye old country parlor, we are men of culture.
Aye, that we are.
Well, we're gonna take a break here on the show, and we'll be right back on the Use Your Weight Radio podcast.
You are listening to the Use Your Weight Radio podcast, presented by the JXB Radio Network. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Sarah Ruth Voice. For all your voiceover needs, from animation to audiobooks, characters to commercials, visit www.sarahruthvoice.com.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hello, this is John Wheelhouse, and I understand you guys have an ad for a female voice actor for, an anime character. Now, I know I might not sound perfect, but I can assure you, I think I can be a good candidate for you. So, if you're ready, I'll just leave this for you.
あれは、うんちんちが大好きなんだよ。おう、あらあら。
I hope that's good enough for you guys. Okay. Bye.
It's Jimmy Larue, your favorite gumshoe. The case of the missing cigars has taken a whole new turn. I went all the way to my favorite town. No, not Albuquerque. I'm talking about Vegas, baby. That's right, Sin City. The place where I lost my heart, my shorts, the kids' tuition, the house, and the wife. I like to get some of that back, but they can keep the wife. My life's been easier since. So my friend, Marty, who owns a pawn shop out that way, said, "Hey, you might want to come out and take a look at these Cubans." And I said, "What do I need to look at Cubans for, man? I haven't had to deal with Cubans since the 60s. He goes, "No, I'm talking about a box of Cuban cigars. They're in a mahogany box, gold filigree, the works. And I said, all right, I'll be on my first flight out. So I figured while I'm out in Vegas, I'll look up an old flame. She's a showgirl, or should I say, was a showgirl. She works at a cabaret now, which is fine. This dame is a dime in the right light. She's a little flat-chested, kind of like Dylan Mulvaney or Rachel Zegler's acting. Take your pick. But in the wrong light, this dame is a nickel, and I'm talking a few cents short of that. Kind of looks like Michael J. Fox in Teen Wolf. But, beggars can't be choosers, She said, you can find me at the cabaret. And I said, well, which one? She goes, just look for the sign. And I said, which sign is that? She says, it's out front. You'll know it's me. And I said, okay. And sure enough, on the way to Marty's place, the pawn shop, there it was, the sign. It said 20 sexy ladies and 39 legs. Ironically enough, her name is Eileen. Fellas, the case of the missing cigars is just heating up. Do you have a pet? Do you wish your Yorkie was cooler when getting your soy latte at your favorite coffee shop? Introducing Dr. Motorcycles Motorcycles for Pets. Large or small, we do it all. Great Danes to goldfish, we got a 2-cycle beast for your beast of burden. Giving your Shetland pony some real horsepower. Dr. Motorcycles Motorcycles. Some restrictions apply. Not available in 38 of the 50 states where they are banned in drug stops.
And now it's time for Random Thoughts with Slim Reaper. Slim Reaper.
I think Popeye has severe undiagnosed schizophrenia.
Slim Reaper.
Filing your federal tax return is like a badger with a top hat. What's the point?
Slim Reaper.
The only thing that could fill this void in my soul is a guacamole chip sombrero.
Slim Reaper. This has been Random Thoughts with Slim Reaper on the JXB Radio Network. Slim Reaper.
It's the Use Your Weight Radio podcast on the JXB Radio Network.
Welcome back. This is Use Your Weight, part of the JXB Radio Network. Shout out to our sponsor, BK's Meat Depot, where no one can beat BK's meat. I, of course, am the fantastic Johnny X. He is Dr. Motorcycle. Guess what, Dr. Motorcycle?
What's that, Johnny X?
It's time for the news.
Top of the morning to you. I'm Patrick McShanna O'Shea.
And I'm the Mooch.
And this is the news as it's occurring on this day. For our first news story, a New York City man is fined and sentenced to probation after being caught at the northern border trying to smuggle pythons in his pants.
So, not snakes on a plane, but snakes at the border?
Calvin Bautista crossed into northern New York State with 3 Burmese pythons in his pants on a bus from Montreal to New York City.
I remember the last time that I had a python in my pants, Patty. Have you ever done that?
I don't recall any snakes in my pants, no. But I do recall having to smuggle you across a border or two in our day. Want me to report on that, Mooch?
Moving on.
Yep, that's what I thought. Back to our story. The young adult snakes, which were worth more than $2,500, were hidden in the inner thigh of Bautista's pants in snake bags tied to the pants drawstring.
I just want to make it clear that when I said what I said before, I was talking about trouser snakes, but you don't know nothing about that.
For our next story, the Philadelphia Phillies are scrapping $1 hot dog nights following unruly behavior.
I was in a hot dog eating contest once. You gotta train your throat to open up and take it all in.
I'm not going to touch that joke with a 10-foot pole, Mooch, even though you could probably fit it down your gullet.
I mean, it's a whole lot of swallowing, Patty. A whole lot of swallowing.
For more than a quarter-century, Phillies fans considered $1 hot dog night one of the highlights of their existence, but that has been taken away.
I mean, who would do such a thing? Can a man just enjoy a wiener every once in a while, Patty?
A game last year turned into a Philly food fight when they tossed their ballpark franks in several areas and also onto the playing field, leading to multiple ejections.
I once knew a guy whose name was Beans and another guy whose name was Frank. Put those two together and you got a Saturday night party, Patty.
If I were in a food fight right now, I'd just toss you into the fray.
What was that?
I didn't say a thing, Mooch. For our last news story, a new promotional gimmick to sell vehicles. Dr. Motorcycles. Now your feline friends can ride along with ya.
Are you talking about cats? Holy shit, Patty, why do you do this to me? Every time. Why? I just want to know why.
I just report the news, Mooch. That's what we're paid to do. Not to dilly-dally and embarrass the Irish News 4th channel like some co-hosts might be doing.
Oh my God.
And this has been the news as it's occurring here on the Use Your Weight podcast, coming to you on the JXB Radio Network. I'm Patrick McShanna O'Shea.
And I'm the 1974 hot dog eating champion Mooch.
Until we meet again.
And a fantastic news report that was from our crack news team. emphasis there on the word crack.
Crack. And I'm going to ask you again. I asked you this last episode.
Yeah.
Who hired them? That's all I'm asking. I need an answer to that.
I'm not sure that they legitimately were hired. It may be like that Max Headroom thing where he took over WGN Chicago back in the 80s. It kind of feels like that a little bit. There's no records in HR, I should say. But what we do have records of is as the news team grows, we now have a meteorology department.
We do. This is news to me. Go on.
Now we go over to our brand new resident meteorologist, Tempest Wilson, who is standing by at the JXB Radio Network Weather Center. Tempest?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tempest Wilson, and now the weather. As we take a look at the current conditions, we're seeing some unusual patterns forming in the atmosphere. It's almost as if the clouds are reflecting the weather the same way as the chaos within my mind.
Tempest?
Oh, I'm fine. Just contemplating the vastness of the universe and our place in it, just like the sun's place in the sky, and how if even 1 degree closer to the planet would burn us all into oblivion.
Well, maybe knowing if it's going to rain tomorrow would...
True. But then again, is the rain in the sky important when the rain in our hearts is a constant drowning of sorrow and struggle, living one day to the next, never knowing when?
Well, yeah.
Of course. Let's get back to the weather. Looks like we can expect some scattered showers tomorrow, with temperatures ranging from the mid-60s to the intense heat of the passion that burns in my soul when I think about the realization that the phone book has become obsolete.
Phone book?
That's all for tonight's weather. I'm Tempest Wilson, reminding you to stay ahead of the storm and keep your eyes to the skies, because you never know when the nuclear bomb may come in.
All right. Thank you, Tempest, for that amazing weather report right here on Use Your Weight, presented by the JXB Radio Network.
Now I know how James Robert Oppenheimer felt when he said, "I have become death, destroyer of worlds." Thank you, Tempest. You are now making me question everything I know about life, reality, and nuclear bombs.
Oh, not you as well. Well, with that, it's probably best we take a break. As always, I'm Dr. Motorcycle, joined by the fantastic Johnny X. This is the Use Your Weight Radio podcast here on the JXB Radio Network.
But really, Motorcycle, what is life when you actually stop and think about it?
Oh my gosh.
You are listening to the Use Your Weight Radio podcast, presented by the JXB Radio Network. You can find us online at youtube.com/@useyourweight. We're also on Instagram at useyourweightpod.
Gator Hokum here. Are you ready to dig up some gold this St. Patrick's Day? Well, look no further than Shovels and More, your one-stop shop for all things shovels. Get lucky with our St. Patrick's Day sale. From garden shovels to snow shovels, to shovels to bury your neighbor's annoying-ass dog that won't shut the hell up. We got them all. Whether you're digging in the garden or digging a grave for your ex's new man, our shovels are built to last and tackle every job with ease. And during our St. Patrick's Day blowout sale, every 16th shovel comes with a gift certificate to Barb's Adult Supply. Shovels and More, right off Route 42 behind the Piggly Wiggly, right next to Barb's Adult Supply. Stop in, tell them Skeeter sent you, and buy yourself a shovel.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, this is Bob from Bob's Adult Supply. Listen, I don't mind you coming in here every Friday at noon and all, but you gotta start leaving your cheesesteak outside. Last week you spilled it all over the floor in the adult booth, and it does not mix well with what's already on that floor, and it certainly don't make for good lube. So, call me back.
It's the Use Your Weight Radio podcast on the JXB Radio Network.
All right, we're back here on Use Your Weight, presented by the JXB Radio Network. We are on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at Use Your Weight Pod. YouTube is at Use Your Weight, and I'm sure we're anywhere and everywhere that great podcasts are available. I am Dr. Motorcycle. He is the fantastic Johnny X, and we love music. And with that, Johnny is here to tell us all about the upcoming releases, shows, and different things that are going on around the world.
That's right. Thank you, Motorcycle. So first of all, big news for me and news for a lot of people. South Carolina's Stretch Armstrong. They dropped a surprise EP on March the 8th. This is the first time they've released new music in 19 years. I was very happy at this shock drop because Stretch is one of my favorite bands. I actually went down and saw them in their hometown reunion show back in 2022 in Columbia, South Carolina. One of the best weekends of my life. Fantastic album. It's out there on Spotify and everywhere else you can get music. They are doing vinyl pre-orders right now through Iodine Recordings. Also recently, Florida's hardcore punk standouts Gouge Away. They dropped their follow-up to their 2018 full-length Burnt Sugar. The name of the EP is called Spaced Out, and it was released via Deathwish Inc. in late February. Also, worth pointing out, West Virginia natives and good friends of mine, as well as friends of the show, the Dinosaur Burps, they released a new song. It's called Driftwood. They released that in early or late February, right before they hit the West Coast to open some sold-out shows in 1,000-plus seat venues for current alt-country juggernaut and fellow West Virginian, I might add, Sierra Farrell. She's got a new full-length. It's called Trail of Flowers. Got all kinds of buzz ahead of its late March release. Personally, on the calendar, got a couple of shows coming up in the next couple of months. I'm really looking forward to. April 5th, myself, Slim Reaper, and the Historian, we're going to be heading to Columbus, Ohio, to see Jeff Rosenstock, much to Slim's immense pleasure. To say he loves Rosenstock's music would be a colossal understatement. And secondly, and more importantly for me, because this is one of my favorite bands, Memphis alt-country rock behemoths Lucero are coming back to West Virginia May 19th for a show at the Loud in Huntington. I got tickets for that the second they went on sale. It's the week after my birthday. Very excited. It'll be my third time seeing Lucero. Very excited for that show. Lots of great albums coming out this year. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about in this area as the year goes on, but that's just a taste as things stand right now.
Yep, so that's the new stuff. Great report there from the fantastic Johnny X, but, you know, we also love the old stuff, and it's time, Johnny, to take a ride.
Oh, are we going to be on the Magic Bus?
It's not the Magic Bus, but it is a bus, and it's the one-hit omnibus with Damien.
Welcome aboard the One Hit Omnibus, where we drive on through the albums of one-hit wonders of yesteryear to see if they should have made more than just their one hit. My name is Damien. Thanks for taking this ride. Today's trek through the past is brought to us by punk band Chumbawumba. Yes, you heard me right. The band that sings Tub Thumping were considered an anarcho-punk band. Not only that, this band was around for 30 years before retiring. They were founded in Burnley, United Kingdom in 1982 and were made up of 5 members, but sometimes upwards of 8 at one time. They reached the height of their career with the song Tub Thumping in 1997, peaking at number 6 on the Billboard Top 200. The album that it was on was met with mainly positive reviews, and Greg Krott of the Chicago Tribune even said it was, quote, twice as catchy as the Spice Girls. However, we aren't looking at this in 1997. We're looking at it in 2024. And boy oh boy, this was a ride. I have never heard an album more diverse than this album. It opens with chart banger Tub Thumping. And let me tell you, when you are doing something you really don't want to do, like listening to this album, this song hits in a way that is unexplainable. I found myself really looking forward to the rest of the album after this song. And boy was I wrong to think like that. Tub Thumping is the peak of this album, and it is not even close. The next 12 songs, and yes, I said 12 songs, were all over the place. However, there is one credit I would like to give, and that is to the instrumentals. The instrumental work on this album is perfect and should be heralded. However, that is where a lot of my compliments stop. The songs on this album are so incoherent lyrically, it's like they wrote a chorus to name each song and then went completely off the rails with the verses. Also, there are multiple songs where this group attempts to rap in a Run DMC style and it falls incredibly flat. They also attempt to use heavier rock sounds with the electronic styling, similar to the group The Prodigy, who had big hits at this time with Firestarter, and you can really tell where The Prodigy succeeds and Chumbawumba does not. There are a couple very catchy and decent songs on this album, despite my criticism. 2 songs really stood out as fun to me, them being One by One and Mary Mary. One by One was an anti-war message that ends, however, with an incredibly annoying outro. And Mary Mary was a blend of modern metal band in this moment and a brassy sounding Mortal Kombat 2 soundtrack combination. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever heard, but it kind of worked. Overall, to make it through this album, I had to take 3 breaks, and the songs outside of Tub Thumping aren't nearly as good as that. To me, this band deserves to be a one-hit wonder. They can get knocked down, but they don't have to get back up again. I'm Damien, and thanks for riding the One Hit Omnibus with me today here on Use Your Weight, courtesy of the JXB Radio Network.
A great report from our own Damien on the One Hit Omnibus about Chumbawumba. Johnny, I know you were a big Chumbawumba fan, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. If I roll my eyes any harder, my fake eye's going to fly out of my head and fly across the room.
Oh.
I gotta say, Motorcycle, I applaud Damien. He did that willingly. He listened to that willingly. And you and I both have dabbled, me probably more than you, but we've both at least dabbled in radio. And I worked in radio for a very long time, both in college and in the real world, quotation fingers. And I've had to listen to a lot of crap. I've had to hear a lot of one-hit wonders and sound excited while talking about them. I couldn't do that. So kudos to you, Damien. You're a braver man than I think.
Well, that brings us to the end of our show, and we're so happy that all of you have joined us today. We got to give a special shout out to our production assistants for this episode. Of course, Damien Miller. You can check out his show and podcast. He's on youtube.com at Casually Diehard Pod. You can check out Morgan J, who helped us out today. She's on YouTube as well at Morgan J. James Terry dropped in for production assistance, as well as DCVA and AJ Venegas rounded us out here on the show today. You can find us online. We are on Instagram at UseYourWeightPod, jxbradio.wordpress.com. And we thank you so much for joining us for another great episode of the Use Your Weight podcast, presented on the JXB Radio Network.
I had to get excited about Creed songs, Motorcycle, and Days of the New, and Limp Bizkit, and all kinds of... Oleander, remember them? Blue October. These are all bands I had to get excited about. Yeah, it sucked.
You have been enjoying the Use Your Weight Radio podcast, courtesy of the JXB Radio Network, hosted by Dr. Motorcycle and the fantastic Johnny X. Our director is Bob McCoy. Our executive producers are Bob McCoy and Josh Exline. Our announcer is Sarah Ruth Thomas. Assistant producers include Brian King, Slim Reaper, and Josh Bates. Thanks for listening, and come again.